Good morning. It is Friday, March 14th, 2025. I am Stephen C. You are at Steve OC's on TikTok. This live every morning is shared at 11 a.m. Central Time. And what we do is we talk about the Course in Miracles, go over the lesson of the day, read it, look at it, talk about it, and then also read, look at, and talk about a corresponding section from the text. So today is March 14th. Beware the Ides of March, all you Caesars out there. And we begin every live. This live, if you don't catch the live, if you miss part of the live, you can go to my YouTube channel also at Steve OC's. Every day, this live is downloaded here and uploaded to YouTube. So go over there, subscribe to my YouTube channel, click around on a few of the episodes over there. There's 72 episodes waiting for you to explore. Spin the spiritual wheel, spin the Course in Miracles wheel, and see what comes up for you over on my YouTube channel. So let's begin here today with this live by reading the introduction to the Course. This is the introduction to the text. It says, this is a Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Boom. It is a required course. How about that? Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. And what the Course in Miracles very basically and very quickly is telling us is that we've put ourselves in an impossible situation. We've imprisoned ourselves with our own thought system. We have taught ourselves incorrectly. And so now we need a thought system, a way to learn. We need a curriculum that will help us dissolve, undo that thought system, the Course in Miracles calls it. And so it is a required course because on the spaceship Earth, we are all in the same boat here, and we all are thinking from the same place, and that place is, to a greater or lesser degree, of course, that place is a place of separation from God. And so the cure, the solution, the salvation, the atonement is to dissolve that ego thought system and to adopt and learn the thought system of the Holy Spirit in order to accept our true place and true position in the mind of God. So that is what, among other things, we are engaged in here on this channel. If you get a chance, if you feel it is on your heart, please like this live. Also follow this channel and make some comments, contribute, and participate. Your participation and your contribution helps distribute this live to other people so more people see the live. And so you can participate and share in that way, which is one of the major themes of the Course in Miracles, is sharing consciousness. The understanding that consciousness is one, consciousness is unified. There is only one consciousness. And so to return to the kingdom of heaven, which is within us, on earth as it is in heaven, in our own consciousness, as in God's consciousness and the collective consciousness, we need to join together and share that consciousness. That is what the Course is about. That is the part of the curriculum. We read that yesterday, as a matter of fact. So this is a Course in Miracles. It's a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean you can choose the curriculum. You can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The Course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. We have to be reminded of the meaning of love. Or, as the Course says here, that it does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, to the awareness of what is already there. God is love. We are created in the image and likeness of God. I am God. Love created me like itself. Right? That was the idea we looked at in the workbook. The mantra we used a couple weeks ago. I am sustained by the love of God, and love created me like itself. So, the Course aims at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. Divine paradox there for you. The opposite of love is fear. If I experience fear, if I see fear, if I hear about fear, right, I still believe in it to some degree, some extent. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. The goal of the course, the purpose of the course is peace, peace of mind. Peace that passes human understanding. Human understanding being the carnal mind, if you want to use the terminology of the Bible, or if we want to use the terminology of the Course in Miracles, the ego mind, the mind of separation. So that is the introduction, and as I said, every day, 11 a.m. Central Time, we'll be talking about the Course in Miracles here on this live. Please share this live with others. Go right down to the bottom, hit that share arrow, notify a couple people that this live is going on. If you missed the live, or if you only catch a portion of it and you like what you hear, you go over to YouTube, where I then upload the live over on YouTube. Please hit the like button and follow this account. Okay, so lesson 73 today. Today is 73rd day of this year. March 14th, Friday, March 14th. So lesson 73 says, I will there be light. I will there be light. And it says, today we are considering the will you share with God. God's will and my will are one. I am one with God. If I am one with God, my will is one with God, which leads to an interesting conclusion. I am here for God. What is my purpose? What is my function? My purpose is to do the will of God. What is the will of God? Well, we talk about that every day, and it is contained not only in the workbook, but in the text. So I will there be light. Let's see what that means. What could that possibly mean? Today, we are considering the will you share with God. This is not the same as the ego's idle wishes. So when we will, really, it's an aspect of God. It's God's will. If we're participating or doing something the ego wants us to do, something selfish, something self-centered, if you want to use that terminology, it's really just an idle wish. It's an attempt at magic instead of a miracle. The miracle is a symbol of the truth. Magic, just here in the Course in Miracles, of course, I often talk about, magic. I often use the word magic. And when we're talking about the Course, my tarot cards are all mixed up. My devil cards are all mixed up. So I would show you the magician card if I could find it. But here, the Course says magic is of the ego. It's an idle wish. It doesn't stick, okay? It doesn't hang around. It kind of rises up, it has its effect, and then it disappears again, just like this body. So, of course, Miracles says this body is an illusion. This body is magic. We've kind of magicked something up. We've magicked up this whole world. And it is the intention and the purpose of the Course in Miracles to show us what a miracle is so that we can remember reality. Thank you, Earth Citizen 23. There's actually 22 Earth Citizens before Earth that came before Earth Citizen 23. But thank you for the likes. I appreciate it. Thank you for the like, Earth Citizen 23. Okay, the will we share with God is the subject for today. Will there be light is the lesson for today. The will you share with God has all the power of creation in it. Ego's idle wishes are unshared and therefore have no power at all. Therefore, self-centered, selfish, narcissistic, if we want to use a popular word of the day, I suppose. Ego's wishes are not idle in the sense that they can make a world of illusions in which your belief can be very strong. This is a world of illusions. We're dreaming this world. This world is a simulation, not necessarily in the sense that it's a computer simulation. It's a spiritual, chemical, biological simulation, if you will, I would say. It's a dream. Ego's wishes are not idle in the sense that they can make a world of illusions in which your belief can be very strong, but they are idle indeed in terms of creation. They make nothing that is real. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Ego makes the unreal because it is unreal. The ego itself is an illusion. Separation never occurred, according to the Course in Miracles. Idle wishes and grievances. We've talked about grievances the last few days. My grievances are an attack on God's plan for salvation. My grievances are an attack on my enlightenment, on my waking up, on my coming to my true senses. Idle wishes and grievances are partners or co-makers in picturing the world you see. Notice it doesn't use the word creators. It says co-makers. Again, that has to do with idle wishes, magic. It says we make this up. We have manufactured or produced or made up this illusion. We have not created. Creation is eternal. So it says co-makers instead of co-creators. Idle wishes and grievances are partners. The wishes of the ego gave rise to it, and the ego's need for grievances, which are necessary to maintain it, peoples it with figures that seem to attack you and call for righteous judgment. Keep figures in the dream also, of course, refers to the figures in the dream. People in the dream that seem to attack me, that I must attack back, according to the ego. That is ego's salvation, grievances, right? These figures become the middlemen the ego employs to traffic in grievances. Ego is a human trafficker in grievances. They stand between your awareness and your brother's reality. My awareness of my brother's reality, my awareness of your reality. And if I cannot perceive your reality, I cannot perceive my own reality. They stand between your awareness and your brother's reality. The ego's grievances and idle wishes. Beholding them, you do not know your brothers or yourself, capital S. Your will is lost to you in this strange bartering, in this strange exchange, in this strange commerce, in which guilt is traded back and forth and grievances increase with each exchange. This lesson today, lesson 73, and also the text, when we go to the text today, really good stuff here. Really good stuff. It's really laying it out about what's happening, right? The traffic, the back and forth, the trafficking of grievances. Who started this mess? Obviously, you did. I'm here to clean it up, right? Oh, and on and on and on and on. Okay, and the ego, it also says in the Course, the ego doesn't make it entirely too bad it lets some light in there. It's not complete darkness, because then we wouldn't tolerate it. And the Course says, if you really listen to the voice of the Holy Spirit, you'd understand where it all leads, which is to complete darkness, total confusion, and absolute chaos. Been there, done that. So, right, so the Holy Spirit shows us the contrast. The Course calls that the Holy Spirit's way of motivating us to begin to listen to the Holy Spirit by showing us the contrast. Right now, what we're seeing on all our screens, what we're seeing on this app, what we're seeing on the television, what we're seeing in Washington, D.C., and anywhere else, any other country, Russia, Ukraine. See, what we're seeing is that collective darkness rising up collectively. Now, everybody's eyes are trained on the same thing. Everybody's eyes are trained on the same darkness. So what I'm doing on this channel, and what we're doing on this channel, and what I'm focused on this channel, is we want to look through that darkness to the light. There is a higher power in charge of this world. There is a higher power in charge of our consciousness. There is a creator. This is the creator's creation, and it's being processed. We're going through it. We're part of it because we're co-creators. Okay? Co-creators with God, co-makers with the ego. It says, your will is lost to you in this strange bartering, in which guilt is traded back and forth, and grievances increase with each exchange. Right? Can such a world have been created by the will the Son of God shares with his Father? My will and God's will are one. Creation is the will of both together. Would God create a world that kills himself? Okay, so it's referring us back to the idea that death is not real. Would God create a world in which death is real? It's often asked, of course. I know I was asking myself that probably when I was a teenager or an adolescent, or even before that, when I was being dragged to church, to the Catholic Church, right? When I was being literally dragged to the parochial school that I went to. My mother literally had to drag me up the stairs to the school in first grade when I was 5 or 6 years old. Literally. Right? I must have been sensing something. There's no real recollection of why I was so against going up into that classroom, but I was. So your will is lost to you in this strange bartering, in this trafficking of grievances, right? In this listening to the voice of the ego, to this voice of separation. I have to fight, right? No. Give up the battle, give up the fight. Resist not evil. God is a unified consciousness. God is perfect peace in our consciousness, in our heart. Okay. Thank you, Beatles, for sharing the live. Thank you so much. Please, you guys, share the live. Participate. That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Today, we will try once more to reach the world that is in accordance with your will. That's in accordance with my will and God's will, right? So we're aligning ourselves with that. Abraham Hicks talks about coming into alignment with what you want. What I want is to share the will of God. Why not go straight to the top? We'll leave the rest to God, right? Seek ye first the kingdom, everything else gets taken care of. Everything else is added. Everything else is a bonus. Everything else is a derivative from aligning my consciousness and my self and my heart and my mind with the Creator, with the universe, whatever you want to call it, with joy, peace, love, happiness, the light. Today we're talking about the light. I will there be light. Today we will try once more to reach the world that is in accordance with your will. The light is in it because it does not oppose the will of God. It is not heaven, but the light of heaven shines on it. Darkness has vanished. The ego's idle wishes have been withdrawn. Yet the light that shines upon this world of darkness, this world that's ruled by Satan, okay, the idea of separation. If I use that word, of course, it's not in the traditional sense, not really in the biblical sense, but the idea of the fall away, the separation, the making of a gap in consciousness between my consciousness and the eternal consciousness, universal consciousness, right? Let's just ease up on the pedal there a little bit and call it the ego mind. It's a little bit easier to work with than Satan, I think. It's a little bit easier to work with than Satan, I think. In this paragraph, it's going to talk about exactly what we see on this app every day, what we see on TikTok every day, what we see on social media every day. For the people that are talking about this, here it is in the Course in Miracles, perfectly explained. Your picture of the world can only mirror what is within. The source of neither light nor darkness can be found without. The source of neither light nor darkness can be found without. Based on what I just said, if we're going to use the S word about the big mean guy, the meanest guy ever, the S word, right? It's really, as it says here, the source of neither light nor darkness, if he's the Prince of Darkness, can be found without. It is not outside of us. It is within us. So now you start getting into Jung and individuation and looking at the shadow. Same idea. Shadow is within us. The shadow is the part of ourselves we've rejected, okay, suppressed. Then what do? I project it onto you. It's the part of myself I don't like, so I project it onto you. Now, instead of not liking myself or covering up a cover-up, right? Always covering up the fact that probably I don't like myself, I'm going to direct it toward you. I'm going to project it on you. And that is the way the world works. The world that's being talked about in the Course in Miracles, right? We want to escape from that world. That world's going to keep on worlding, right? The poor will always be with you. The poor in spirit will always be with you. The confused will always be with us. But if I straighten out my own mind, my own consciousness, then the Holy Spirit's going to take care of the rest of it. The Holy Spirit's going to help me straighten out my own mind and consciousness. And then the Holy Spirit's going to extend it where it will be received, where it can be received. There's a lot of people on this live right now, and also that come around and not here today, sometimes here. There's a lot of people on this live that accept what's being said, right? Allow it. They're open to it. There's a lot of people come through. Some people come through. They don't accept what's being said. That's fine. No problem. That's just the way it is, right? So it's either love, according to the Course in Miracles, or a call for love. So if there's some sort of non-acceptance and resistance, it's only a reflection of something within me anyway. So it's a call for love. It's an inner call for love being reflected outside of me. There's nothing outside of me. Grievances darken your mind, and you look out on a darkened world. Forgiveness lifts the darkness, reasserts your will, and lets you look upon a world of light. We have repeatedly emphasized that the barrier of grievances is easily passed and cannot stand between you and your salvation. The reason is very simple. Do you really want to be in hell? Do you really want to weep and suffer and die? Okay? Remember, it's an inside job. It's an inside game. As it talks about this, even when it's talking about the external world, it's an inside job. That barrier, that wall of grievances, that dark cloud that we talked about the last couple of days, is an internal image. It's an image I've created. These thoughts are images I have created. Okay. Then they get projected out. And not only get projected out, they actually get assembled, right? So we're walking around on a holodeck, on a hologram, in a hologram. We're in a hologram, on a holodeck. Forget the ego's arguments, which seek to prove all this is really heaven, all this. Forget the ego's arguments. You know it is not so. You cannot want this for yourself. There's a point beyond which illusions cannot go, right? Enough is enough. Okay. Suffering is not happiness, and it is happiness you really want. Such is your will in truth, and so salvation is your will as well. You want to succeed in what we are trying to do today. We undertake it with your blessing and your glad accord. So, Course calls that being a happy learner. I taught myself, and the outcome has been disease, death, destruction, disorder. Okay, I taught myself, right? I thought I was separate from God. Now I'm gonna go for happiness, because happiness is what I really want. And so I'm going to listen to the voice of a different teacher whose outcome is going to be happiness, love, light, fulfillment, joy, peace, creation. Salvation is for you. We will succeed today if you remember that you want salvation for yourself. You want to accept God's plan because you share in it. You have no will that can really oppose it, and you do not want to do so. So the ego, right, is a losing concern. From Jump Street, the ego has been a losing concern. From Jump Street, all that's been happening is the ego has been losing and losing and losing and losing. Demon Slayer joined. Hey, Demon Slayer, what's up? Cool name, Demon Slayer. You will succeed today if you remember that you want salvation for yourself. Salvation is for you above all else. You want the freedom to remember who you really are. Today, it is the ego that stands powerless before your will. Your will is free, and nothing can prevail against it. Therefore, we undertake the exercises for today in happy confidence. Happy confidence, that's how I should be greeting every day, walking around every day, walking around all day with a sort of a happy confidence, a little bounce in my step, right? A little swagger, because I know everything's working out. I know everything's working out for good, not only for me, but for everyone else. Okay. And I'm the source of that. I'm the center of salvation. And it's being radiated from me, right? What a great way to walk around in the world, right? With a happy confidence, the Course says, certain that we will find what it is your will to find, and remember what it is your will to remember, right? My will and God's will are one. So as I will there be light, as I engage my will in that practice with a happy confidence, I can also remember that God is with me. God is helping me to establish his will in my own consciousness, in my own mind. No idle wishes can detain us, no distractions, nor deceive us with an illusion of strength. Today, let your will be done and end forever the insane belief that it is hell in place of heaven that you choose. We will begin our longer practice periods with the recognition That God's plan for salvation, and only His, is wholly in accord with your will, with my will. It is not the purpose of an alien power thrust upon you unwillingly. In fact, that is what the ego's will is: the need for grievances, for resentments, for conflict, the illusion of conflict, right? Fighting, conflict, war, judgment, criticism of myself and everyone else and everything else, right? Because it's total. Each thought system is total and complete. So it also says the Holy Spirit really has no communication with the ego, because the Holy Spirit understands that the ego does not exist, so it does not engage it, which is the true definition of forgiveness. It is not there. Why would I respond to it? My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. God did not create a meaningless world. I'm upset because I see something that isn't there. You will succeed today. The time appointed for the release of the Son of God from hell and from all idle wishes. Today is the time appointed for the release of the Son of God from hell and from all idle wishes. His will is now restored to his awareness. I will there be light. He is willing this very day to look upon the light in him and be saved. After reminding yourself of this and determining to keep your will clearly in mind, tell yourself with gentle firmness and quiet certainty, I will there be light. Let me behold the light that reflects God's will and mine. Then let your will assert yourself. Don't make your will assert yourself. Let your will assert itself. Joined with the power of God and united with yourself, capital S. Put the rest of the practice period under their guidance, under God's guidance and the guidance of my higher self, my higher power. Join with them as they lead the way. I follow, for I would not lead. In the shorter practice periods, again, make a declaration of what you really want. Shorter practice periods are any time throughout the day when I remember, or when I become disturbed or disrupted or thrown off my game, right? I want to remind myself, I will there be light, and take the time to really let that sink in. I will there be light, and take the time to allow my will to assert itself, as it just said here. I will there be light. Darkness is not my will. Grievances are not my will. Resentments are not my will. Wars, judgment, destruction are not my will. This should be repeated several times an hour. It is most important, however, to apply today's idea in this form immediately. You are tempted to hold a grievance of any kind. That guy just cut me off. This will help you let your grievances go instead of cherishing them and hiding them in darkness. So that is lesson 73. I will there be light. Now the text for today, which you can hear every day at 11 a.m. Central Time. I go live with the Course in Miracles every day at 11 a.m. Central Time. You can join then. You can share the live then. You can follow this account then, or you can go over to YouTube. I upload then the live over on YouTube. You can follow along on YouTube. There's 72 YouTube uploads over there on YouTube at Steve O.C. There's a link at Steve O.C.'s. There's a link in my bio on TikTok. So join us every day if you can. And please participate. Please contribute. You can comment, you can share, you can follow the account. All of these things are your contribution. Are you participating? You can send us a lightning bolt, right? The 2 or 3 cent lightning bolt, I think. You can send that to this live. You can help me build up the bank of this live so I could share with other live creators, right? Caring is sharing. So let's look at the text right now. Sharing is caring. Sharing is Karen. Karen is sharing. Okay, let's look at the text. Chapter 9, section 5 is called the Unhealed Healer. One lesson per day, one section of the text per day. That's how we're going to go through the book for the rest of the year. Chapter 9, section 5, and it's called the Unhealed Healer. Uh-oh. Right? The kooky guru. The unhealed healer. The grifter. It says the ego's plan for forgiveness is far more widely used than God's. The ego's plan for forgiveness is far more widely used than God's. This is because it is undertaken by unhealed healers and is therefore of the ego. Let us consider the unhealed healer more carefully now. By definition, he is trying to give what he has not received. So giving and receiving are one. Receiving and giving are one. When I give, I receive. When I give the Christ consciousness, when I give forgiveness, I understand that I have forgiveness. I have it because I can give it, right? So the universe is mental. So the Course in Miracles is talking about what happens in consciousness. Thank you, King James, for the likes. Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate it. Thank you, King James. Shout out to King James. Ego's plan for forgiveness is far more widely used than God's. Let us consider the unhealed healer more carefully now. He is trying to give what he has not received. If an unhealed healer is a theologian, for example, get ready. If an unhealed healer is a theologian, for example, he may begin with the premise, I am a miserable sinner, and so are you. If he is a psychotherapist, he is more likely to start with the equally incredible belief that attack is real for both himself and the patient, that it does not matter for either of them. So the theologian says, I'm a miserable sinner, and so are you. We need to be redeemed. And what the Course is trying to get across, the curriculum of the Course, is that we are sinless. We cannot change what God has created. God created us perfect, whole, and complete. God created us sinless and guiltless. In the mind of God, we are still sinless and guiltless. Because why does it look like there's sin and guilt? Because we are dreaming right now. We are participating in a dream. As we said earlier, we're on the holodeck. We're in a simulation. This is a dream. This is a collective hallucination. Okay? We're trying to escape it together. And the only way we can escape it is together. The definition of the Son of God in the Course in Miracles is the shared consciousness by everyone, of everyone, knowing that everyone is the same. There are no differences, that everybody has the same consciousness, that everybody can wake up to the same consciousness, that is everyone's purpose, that is everyone's goal together. And that's our true occupation. That's our true function, right? Forgiveness. Forgiveness corresponds to creation in the kingdom. Forgiveness in the world, according to the Course in Miracles, forgiveness in the world corresponds to creation in the kingdom. And what is forgiveness according to the Course in Miracles? Forgiveness is realizing that your brother never did anything wrong, that there's nothing to forgive. True forgiveness, according to the Course in Miracles, is that there's nothing to forgive. Because it's all happening in a dream. So thanks again, King James, for all the likes. So the voice for Jesus here says, Jesus says, I have repeatedly said that beliefs of the ego cannot be shared, and that is why they are unreal. How then can uncovering them make them real? Okay, so he's addressing here the idea of psychotherapy. And interestingly enough, this course was channeled, this course was transcribed by two psychologists at Columbia University in the late 60s and the early 70s, mostly the early 70s. Helen Schuckman and William Tedford, they were psychologists at Columbia University. So this voice that was talking to Helen Schuckman is saying to Helen and to all of us, I have repeatedly said that the beliefs of the ego cannot be shared. That's why they are unreal. How then can uncovering them make them real? So he's challenging directly these guys' occupation of psychotherapy, like uncover the traumas, uncover the damage, uncover these things that have happened. And Voice for Jesus, Jesus is saying, no, they never really happened. That is true salvation. Every healer who searches fantasies for truth must be unhealed, because he does not know where to look for truth and therefore does not have the answer to the problem of healing. However, goes on, there is an advantage to bringing nightmares into awareness, but only to teach that they are not real and that anything they contain is meaningless. Again, my meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. So if you read the preface to the Course in Miracles, it's important to understand, kind of gives the background of these two people, right? That they were psychologists, that they were important in the world. They had very high positions at Columbia University in New York City. Okay, and so this Course in Miracles was channeled through them. It came through them. They wrote it down. They composed it. And so a lot of it, part of it, is kind of breaking down their own particular ways of thinking. So there's also some supplementary material in the back of Course in Miracles, which, by the way, you can find online at acim.org. If you don't have the book, there is supplemental material in the back, manual for teacher, but supplements. There's some supplemental material, and one of them is about psychotherapy. Okay, and it's called Psychotherapy: Purpose, Process, and Practice. Supplements to A Course in Miracles, Psychotherapy: Purpose, Process, and Practice. And so it has some very interesting ideas there to share about psychotherapy also, which is what the Course in Miracles is sort of a form of it, a framework of psychotherapy. And if you think of psyche as the soul, and psychotherapy is really being work on the soul, then you're kind of bringing these concepts a little closer together, where I think Course really wants them to be unified consciousness, unity consciousness, right? There is an advantage to bringing nightmares or darkness or untruths or idols. There is an advantage to bring them into awareness, but only to teach that they are not real and that anything they contain is meaningless. The unhealed healer cannot do this because he does not believe it. He has not discovered it for himself yet. All unhealed healers follow the ego's plan for forgiveness in one form or another. If they are theologians, they are likely to condemn themselves, teach condemnation, and advocate a fearful solution. Projecting condemnation onto God, they make him appear retaliative and fear his retribution, right? That's a punishing God. That's the punishing God we all grew up with. That's the punishing God I grew up with, right? Which turns into punishing parents and punishing teachers and punishing government and punishing police and punishing, right? So it's about time we started to rethink some of this, okay? And from this purely spiritual discussion here, right? From this spiritual foundation, from this spiritual center, from this cornerstone that the builders rejected, right? We can go from here and we can change our perception of the world. If you want to use some technical terminology, we can change our thoughts about the world. We can change our thought system about the world, and therefore change the world, bring it closer and closer to heaven, at which point it's predicted, if you read Gary Renard, I think, right, that it'll disappear. Might be a while before that happens, though. So we'll just keep working here with the workbook and with the text. Projecting condemnation onto God, the ego makes him appear retaliative, and fear is retribution. What they have done is merely to identify with the ego, and well, I guess it's talking about theologians here. What they have done is merely to identify with the ego, and by perceiving what it does, condemn themselves because of this confusion, because of identifying with the ego, instead of identifying with the Holy Spirit or the higher self or the I am or the Christ consciousness. Okay, it is understandable that there have been revolts against this concept, but to revolt against it is still to believe in it. Resist not evil. Some of the newer forms of the ego's plan are as unhelpful as the older ones because form does not matter and the content has not changed. In one of the newer forms, for example, a psychotherapist may interpret the ego's symbols in a nightmare and then use them to prove that the nightmare is real. The nightmare is not real. The dream is not real. Having made it real, he then attempts to dispel its effects by depreciating the importance of the dreamer. This would be a healing approach if the dreamer were also identified as unreal. Yet, if the dreamer is equated with the mind's corrective power through the Holy Spirit is denied. Should kind of say there, if the dreamer is equated with the ego mind, the higher self's corrective power through the Holy Spirit is denied. Right? The dreamer and the ego mind is also not real. It's kind of confusing to read this. I know. I've had to read this many years before it started to make sense, right? Passages like that are kind of confusing. The idea is psychotherapist is analyzes the ego, and by making the ego real, it says you can't heal it. That's the work of an unhealed healer, because if I'm the psychotherapist and I engage your ego, then I'm engaging it from my ego. If I engage you from the Holy Spirit, then I realize and recognize and affirm in myself that there is no ego. There's only the higher self. There's only the Holy Spirit. There is no sense of separation. So I do not engage your ego. And I certainly don't say I'm trying to heal it, because that would be meaningless. It doesn't exist. Can't heal something that doesn't exist. Is the position of A Course in Miracles, right? So that's what it's saying. Whether we believe it or not, whether I believe it or not, right? So it says, what then should happen? When God said, let there be light, there was light. Can you find light by analyzing darkness, as the psychotherapist does? Or, like the theologian, by acknowledging darkness in yourself and looking for a distant light to remove it while emphasizing the distance? God is in heaven. God's up there, way up there somewhere, right? Healing is not mysterious. Nothing will change unless it is understood, since light is understanding. A miserable sinner cannot be healed without magic, nor can an unimportant mind esteem itself without magic. And again, it's making a distinction here. It's using words like magic and miracle. Don't trip. Depends how you use the word magic, but don't trip. The magic that comes from the Holy Spirit is a miracle. And don't trip. Yes, in the Bible, it talks about magicians and then whatever, Moses and Aaron and all the rest of them. Later in the New Testament and the Acts of the Apostles or whatever, whenever they run into those magicians, the magicians and the musicians, the real magic is a miracle. It's just the restoration of the truth. And all it's saying is, if it doesn't last, it's calling it magic. If it's eternal, it's a miracle. Both forms of the ego's approach, then, from the theologian and from the psychotherapist, must arrive at an impasse, the characteristic, impossible situation to which the ego always leads. Ego's fundamental proposition is seek but do not find. Okay? May help someone to point out where he is heading, but the point is lost unless he has also helped to change his direction. The unhealed healer cannot do this for himself. The unhealed healer cannot do this for him, for his brother, since he cannot do it for himself. The only meaningful contribution the healer could make is to present an example of one whose direction has been changed for him and who no longer believes in nightmares of any kind. So all we're doing is presenting ourselves, presenting our aura, our energy, our vibration, okay, our communications that indicate that of myself I can do nothing. Father in me doeth the works. Of myself I can do nothing. Why callest thou me good? Why do you call me the Son of God and no one else? Right? Why callest thou me good? It is the Father within me which doeth the works, right? It's that higher power, it's that higher consciousness that I've been ignoring. And by his acknowledgement, the healer knows it is there. That is how perception is ultimately translated into knowledge. Check this out. This is how healing works. The miracle worker begins by perceiving light. And so, thought for the day, I will there be light so that I may perceive it. So it says here, the miracle worker begins by perceiving light and translates his perception into sureness by continually extending it and accepting its acknowledgement. Its effects assure him it is here. So, the miracle worker, the light worker, says, I will there be light, accepts the light here, extends it, radiates it, vibrates in it, communicates it merely by his or her presence, right, at the highest level, accepts it, perceives it, extends it, sees the effect of it over there, and thus recognizes it's here, right? It's a circle. It starts here, extend, recognize, it's mirrored back, it's a circle, acknowledged. So it's a communication system. It's a system of communication using the body as the communication device of spirit, of holiness, as the Course also calls it. Perceive it, extend it, see its effects, hear its effects, acknowledge it. Oh, I have it because I gave it. Now I see it. I believed it. Now I see it. I have it. Now I see it. I gave it. Now I have it. I gave it. Now I have it. There is no loss, right? And it's all based on thought and the mind. A therapist does not heal. She lets healing be. She can point to darkness, but she cannot bring light of herself, for light is not of her. Yet being for her, it must also be for her patient. The Holy Spirit is the only therapist, capital T. Therapeutic, right? They used to call healers and magicians, spiritual people, therapeutic, I believe. I believe that's a Greek word, which means healer, therapeutics, therapist. She makes healing clear in any situation in which she is the guide. The Holy Spirit is the only therapist. She makes healing clear in any situation in which she is the guide. You can only let her fulfill her function. She needs no help for this. She will tell you exactly what to do to help anyone she sends to you for help, and will speak to him through you if you do not interfere. Non-interference. Remember that you choose the guide for helping, and the wrong choice will not help. So free will, as it says also in the introduction we read before we began the text today, the curriculum's mandatory. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean you can establish the curriculum. It only means you can establish the time you will take it, right? So we make the decision, we make the choice to allow the Holy Spirit to be the healer through us, the Spirit of God to heal through us by knowing truth. Wrong choice will not help, but remember also the right one will. Trust her, for help is her function, and she is of God. As you awaken other minds to the Holy Spirit through her, and not yourself, you will understand that you are not obeying the laws of this world, but the laws you are obeying work. It works if you work it. What is good? The good is what works is a sound, though insufficient statement. Only the good can work. Nothing else works at all. This course offers a very direct and very simple learning situation and provides the guide who will tell you what to do. If you do it, you will see that it works, right? That's why it says, just do what it says in the workbook. Don't worry whether or not you understand it at this point. You may even actively resist it. You may reject it. Just do it. Just do it, Goddess Nike. If you do it, you will see that it works. Its results are more convincing than its words. They will convince you that the words are true. That's why the workbook is more important than the text in the Course in Miracles. It's more important to do the workbook than to understand the text, right? That's what it's saying there. By following the right guide, you will learn the simplest of all lessons. By their fruits ye shall know them, and they shall know themselves. So that is the text for today, chapter 9, section 5. Again, you can find it online, and lesson 73, I Will There Be Light. If you don't have the book, go online, acim.org. That's the website of the Foundation for Inner Peace, which publishes the Course in Miracles. The entire book is online for free. It's available for free. Also has a great search function on there. So if you've heard something or you wrote something down and you want to remember where it was, you can search it, and the corresponding portions of the text or the workbook will come up. So that is all for today. I am Stephen C. You are at Steve OC's on TikTok during this live, which begins at 11 a.m. Central Time. Every day, go over the Course in Miracles. We go over the workbook lesson of the day, then a corresponding portion of the text. If you miss the 11 a.m. live, if you can't make it, or if you can only make it on the weekends or whatever, you can go over to YouTube. I upload it over there. Also at Steve-O C's. There's a link in my bio. Thank you for your likes today. Thank you for sharing this live. Go to this account, follow this account, share some of the content on the account. Share that with your friends. Distribute this content as we all wake up. Participate in the Course in Miracles. Participate in your own salvation. Thanks for doing that. We all have to do it. It is a required course, as it says. Okay? It is not the only form of the course. There are other forms of it. Yet the curriculum, waking up, knowing who and what we are, knowing who and what you are. That is why we are here, who our Creator is, and that we live in love and light. So that is all for today. Peace and blessings. Love you. Love God. Love yourself. And yeah, have a good one. Take care. See you tomorrow.